And welcome back to the Employment Law Show. John Scholes and Lior Samfiru. And fast facts on being fired without cause. We'll get to that. You want to reach out, by the way, 1-855-821-5900 and employmentlawyer.ca. You will find past shows and the proper way to find our radio show, which we've been doing for years and years and years. More phone calls from that show coming up here in just a bit. But I will throw these out to you right away, Lior, and I know you'll want to answer them quickly. That's why they're fast facts. Number one is, what is termination without cause?
A termination without cause. Some people hear that term and they think that there's something wrong. They let me go without cause. I've been wrong. Not necessarily. In fact, in most cases, no, you have not. A termination without cause simply means you're not being let go because of significant misconduct. Anything that's not a termination for cause, in other words, anything that's not a termination because of significant misconduct is a termination without cause. So that could be a restructuring, it could be cost cutting, it could be realignment, it could be a situation where you're let go because the company is not happy with your work performance.
Your boss doesn't like you, something like that.
But it's just not cause. So it's perfectly legal to be let go without cause. It's a question of severance. So if you're let go without cause, you have to get paid severance. The most common form of termination, John, is a termination without cause.
Yep. Next one is this. I've just been fired without cause, and the company wants me to sign a termination papers or a severance offer before I leave. Do I have to?
Absolutely not. So when you're let go without cause, again, the most common form of termination, you're going to be usually called into a meeting, handed some papers, and there's a severance offer usually in that paper, and there's a deadline by which you sign it. No matter what is the deadline, even if they want you to sign it now, tomorrow, next week, do not worry about it. Your legal rights don't expire on that deadline. You have 2 years to pursue your rights. It's your job to determine that you got what you're owed, and most people are not. So that deadline, that pressure is meaningless. You take the papers home, say, I'll consider it. You go to Pocket Employment Lawyer.ca. You call me. You call another employment lawyer if you want to instead of me. That's fine. But that's what you do. Do not fall for the pressure, because if you do, and you sign off on that severance letter and you realize later, holy cow, I was owed another $30,000, you won't be able to do anything about that. So don't let that happen to you.
Just take it home, take a breather, relax, and give it some time, right?
Take the time that you need. If it's a week, if it's a month, take whatever time you need. It's a stressful time. It's a lot of things going on. You may not be in the best state of mind to deal with your severance offer right away. That's okay. Take the time that you need. You're not losing anything.
We're talking about fast facts about being fired without cause. The next one is, well, I'm going to lob an easy one over the plate for you. How much severance am I owed following a termination for cause?
That is an easy one. Well, it could be a bit tricky, simply because there's no direct formula. Some people think, oh, how much? I know how much severance, a week's
per
pay,
year,
or maybe 2 weeks per year, or whatever else per year. None of that is true. Your severance entitlements depend on a number of factors: your age, your position, the length of your employment, and potentially a couple of other factors as well. So the longer you work, the older you are, and the more senior a position you have, the more you're owed. So for some people, that may mean 12 months pay. Some people may mean 24 months. Some will get a month per year, 2 months per year. So it's based on those factors. So the main thing I want you to take away from this is that there's no formula of a week per year of service. But I'm not going to just say there's no formula and now leave me alone. I wanted to make it as easy as possible. We've said to find out how much you're owed. That's why Pocket Employment Lawyer.ca is there. You can always call me and email me, and I'll tell you how much you're owed in your specific situation. But I can almost guarantee you, whatever it is in that severance offer that you've been offered, even if you think, hey, it's pretty good, it's not. In most cases, it's pennies on the dollar, and a company counts on you not knowing better and accepting it without having all the information.
It really is tailor-made for the individual, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is. There's no one size fits all. So your buddy across the hall, he may be owed 2 months' pay. You could be owed 24 months' pay. It doesn't matter what someone else got. It's an individual assessment. That's why it's so important to get that advice. And like I said, you already have an employment lawyer with you. PocketEmploymentLawyer.ca.
Next one of the fast facts is this. Can the Ministry of Labor help if I'm let go without cause?
Gosh, I actually did an interview earlier today before we came to do the show, and the answer is absolutely not. The Ministry of Labor cannot help anyone when it comes to your termination entitlements. Ministry of Labor can only enforce a person's minimum entitlement, so perhaps a week's pay per year of service. But remember what I said. That's not what you're owed. You're owed much more than that. Your full entitlements, what we call your common law entitlements, are significantly greater. So no, the Ministry of Labor, if you lost your job, you call the Ministry of Labor. I'll give you an example. Say you work for a company for 4 years. You call the Ministry of Labor and you say, hey, I've been offered 5 weeks pay, Ministry of Labor. What do you think of that? They'll say, hey, that's pretty good.
You got bonused.
Because you're owed 4 weeks. They offered you 5. That's amazing. So you think, oh, okay, I'll sign off on the 5 weeks. They just told me it's fine. No, it's not. In fact, in that situation, you could be owed 6 months pay, 8 months pay, even more perhaps. So not weeks, months. So if you call the Ministry of Labor, you get the wrong advice, not because it's wrong, because they're only telling you about a small portion of what you're actually owed. So the worst thing you can do when you lose your job is go to the Ministry of Labor. You'd be better off throwing darts at a dartboard and come up with a number that way. That's better still than going to the Ministry of Labor. You go to Pocket Employment Lawyer.ca, you call me. You can go to the Ministry of Labor for other things. Overtime issues, vacation pay issues. Maybe you didn't get your check properly paid last week. That is fine, but not when you lose your job. For that, you have to get legal advice. We've given you a number of ways to do that. What you cannot do is go to the Ministry of Labor.
Okay, one more here. The fast facts about being fired without cause is this. How does an employment contract factor into severance pay?
So employers now are starting to understand, wait a second, we actually have to pay a lot of severance, and it's going to cost us a lot of money. We may have an employee that has worked for us for 6 months, and we could owe them 5 months severance. How do we eliminate that? How do we reduce that? And the way an employer can reduce severance is through an employment contract or an employment agreement. So what some companies do is they stipulate in the employment agreement what they would have to pay you if at some point down the road they let you go. So if you sign an employment agreement that limits your entitlements, that could be a real factor, and that agreement could cost you potentially tens of thousands of dollars. So 2 things I'll say. Number 1 is be careful what you sign. When you start a job, if there's a term there that limits your entitlements, you want to negotiate that out, and often you can. If you're not sure how to do that, or if you're not sure if it does limit your entitlements, reach out to me, I'll tell you. The second thing I'll say about this, just because you signed an employment agreement that tries to limit your entitlements doesn't actually mean that it does that. In many situations, we can get around the terms of the agreement and still get you your full entitlement. So if you just lost your job and your employer says, you signed an employment agreement, as per that employment agreement, we only have to pay you 3 weeks' pay. That may not be the case. Probably in 80% of the cases, we can get around it. Still so important to give me a call in that situation, because you may still be owed your full entitlement.